A beautiful morning to you and welcome to the newspaper review right here at Prime Media TV. I'm Ayo bringing you the newspaper review for today. As always, we have quite a number of headlines to be reviewed with you today. First of which is the heavy rainfall in Lagos yesterday. The 10 hours rainfall has caused chaos in certain places in Lagos. So the aftermath of heavy rain, chaos, lamentation has flood grounds Lagos. It was confusion and lamentation galore in Lagos yesterday as activities in most parts of the state were paralyzed following early morning rains that left many neighborhoods heavily flooded, with motorists trapped along major roads, including the ever busy Third Mainland Bridge. It was also a blame galore, with many pointing accusing fingers at the state government for failing to enforce environmental protection laws and prosecuting those caught dumping refuse in drainage channels, leading to their blockage and flooding whenever it rains. But before we dive into this conversation, looking at the cause effect of this rainfall on in the Lagos residents that were affected, and considering certain things that could have been done to avert this situation, let's have a quick view of some of the areas that were affected by the rain flood yesterday. So that was the Lagos Oshodi mainland, and the situation that was how the situation was in Lekki as at yesterday. At the same time, while we continue with the conversation, other videos will be displayed for you to see. And earlier this morning, we had the Lagos Minister of Environment who was saying that what happened yesterday was as a result of flash flood, and according to him, he referenced what the Florida is experiencing back to back since the past 2 weeks. As always, I have my co-host with me to analyze this section together. Person of Nwachukwu Treasure, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very
So, yesterday as well, we heard that there was a loss. A child died due to the flood and all of that. We pray that his soul rest in peace. But I would like to hear your thoughts, because we are looking at this from the perspective of the cause effect of this flood and what could have been done to avert it. So, let me hear your thoughts on this flood in Lagos.
Okay, you see, the fact that yesterday or this year is not the first time flooding will occur in Lagos State, in Nigeria as a whole, but majorly Lagos State, is baffles me why, in all the projects that have to be carried out, in all the things that government has taken as responsibility, why this flooding cannot be put into, consider the priority, because it happens annually. All right, we are still going to experience more rain, the 7 rain, and it was just a 10 hours rain, and it was a big chaos yesterday in Lagos State. Now the thing now is the government. Among the videos we have, we had stories of videos of people who were seen, dumping refuse in the water, and the many houses were sealed by the environmental sectors. Now, but the thing now is, before the flood, are there not things the government are supposed to do? Now, I believe that when when there is rainfall and the water is not, begin to accumulate, on a particular place when there is no drainage, there is no, quick flow of the water. These are the things that result to, accumulation of the water that will eventually becomes lead to flooding. Now, what are the governments doing? Now, aside somebody coming out to target whatever it has targeted, this the government is always full of blame. In as much as both the government and the citizens have a part to play,
Of course,
in this
because
thing.
what we have right now is people dumping refuse into the water.
in as much as it's not a good action, but when there is no place for them to discharge it, what do you expect them to do? Now, somebody called a radio station this morning and mentioned a particular place, a place called Abidjan. Now, that in that place, their refuse has been the one the government managed to drop at the bus stop. That it has been there for months. They don't come to discharge this thing, to remove this thing. And he said the woman complained and said the whole place, the whole environment is polluted with bad smell. All right. So in most places now, you discover that that was why during the Ambode administration, he introduced what we call a system called Greener Lagos, and we discovered that almost every bus stop had refuse dump, and every morning, I am a witness to that. Every morning they come to evacuate it. All right. So because of that, you hardly see people, even those that go to work at night, they come out to dispose their refuse. All right. So these people that were seen disposing this thing, they in my estate recently we had to pay a private sector to come and evacuate our waste. All right. So if the government is taking care of that aspect and the people are seen messing the environment, then the law can have effect, can take their course on them. Now, the ceiling of the houses yesterday, according to what we read or we saw in news yesterday, that the ceiling of the houses of where people were seen, pouring out their refuse is in the water. After the arrest, what happened? I mean, the ceiling of that house is actually not the remedy to that solution, to that problem. It's not a remedy because in that house, yesterday we had cases of flooding everywhere. In that house, there are children, right? Where do you want those children to sleep that night? Now, let the person that committed that offense be arrested and be dealt with. In Lagos State, once you commit an offense and you can pay, the next day you'll be released. If not that moment. So if the local government, the state government has brought out a system that handles this flooding, and the people they can then come out with a system that penalizes whoever disobeys or goes contrary. So I think the negligence of the government is the reason why you see people pouring refuse anywhere, and is the reason why you see this flooding occurring every time in Lagos State.
Yeah, exactly. And I would like that we speak on poor drainage system, because outside the fact that the and we cannot entirely attribute the fault to the lawman for not doing their jobs. There are places where, I mean, even in Ibejileki, there is a refuse dump. There is a dump site at Ekpe where these Loma people dump their refuse. But you see that most times they only pack the refuse that is along the road.
Okay.
The one in the community is not a thing for them. But then while I was coming yesterday, the road was flooded. The road was flooded from that Eleko down to you see that even though there are gutters,
And that is what I want
there
to
are
mention.
gutters,
There is
but
a
you
new
see
road
that
and there is gutter there.
exactly there are gutters. And if you note the gutters, speaking for Ibejileki axis now, if you note that those gutters are just there, and most times you see that there are no waters
They are
inside
not being
because
channeled anywhere.
they've not been channeled anyway. And it brings me back to why build a fine road without looking for how they can be drained. I mean, if you look at some community, there is a big, very big river. They can actually channel it to the canal that link to Eleko Beach.
Sure.
That's for the gutters that link up to Eleko. For those ones that link up to this side of the road, that's the Aja axis. They can actually link it back to they can link it to there's a big river at the back.
Yes.
That linking to that Aja road. They
It's
can
true.
link it to that. So let's speak on poor drainage system beyond the Bejileke axis. Even if you go to these places that are flooded yesterday, look at that Oshodi. As much as those gutters are functioning, you see that those waters are actually not leading anywhere. And little rain, the gutter is filled to the brim and the water is heading nowhere. So who are we going to attribute that fault to?
The government.
Of course.
The government. You see, whatever we are doing today, we should consider the effect tomorrow. All right. Now, sometimes many people, most of the houses we are seeing in Lagos today are built on drainage system,
Yeah.
drainage channels, and you see, everybody want to own a house in Lagos State. Now, there is a sector that should be responsible for, responsible to checkmate, building on wrong ways. But we see that if you can pay in this country, in Lagos State, if you can afford to pay whatever you have been charged,
Mm.
discover that you can go against the law. You can do anything. Now, this, when I say the government, no, there is a system that is there to checkmate, to ensure that your building is not going to
Mm.
obstruct the water flow. Now, if these people have been up and doing in their work, in their job, I'm sure most of the flooding we have in Lagos will not be happening.
Mm.
Now, yesterday we only had a case of, not more than one case
Yeah.
of children that were swept by the flood, and this thing now, some happened that we didn't hear of because it was very serious yesterday. And these things are things that the government can help. The
And
government can
that,
help.
that actually bring me to look at, like, Lagos is a very big city. Very big, and I think it is high time we look at redeveloping Lagos. You highlighted cases of places that house, houses are built on places where water can actually be channeled through.
Yes.
So these are things that the government as well has to look at. That we need to redevelop this city. Lagos, we cannot have big cities like this and we have houses built on places where water ought to be passing through. So we really need to look at that, and we hope that the government will actually do something to those people who lost their lives. We look forward to
Redeveloping
that.
Lagos is just like destroying and rebuilding.
No, they don't even have to rebuild.
Okay.
They don't have to rebuild per se, but they can, just like the way they have this Lagos Coastal Highway. They knew they already had a plan on where the road will pass through. They can actually look at it that, okay, these are places that are always overflooded. Or look at places like that Lekki. If you see Lekki yesterday, Lekki was a mess.
Who are the people that approved the building
So if
in
they
those
have a
areas?
replan, if they have a redevelopment plan now, those buildings that are at spots where water ought to be passing through, they can actually destroy those buildings. It will affect a lot of people.
Hmm.
It will affect a lot of people, but they just have to do the necessary because rain has not even started.
At all. The thing is that now it's coming to the individuals. There is a problem I've noticed in Lagos. Once you have money, you want to answer landlord in Lagos. Now, sometimes, even when you as an individual know that this thing is not going to be funny in the future, but because you have links, you have people you can call, and they will bend the law for you. You just want to do it. Sometimes, even in error, we want to prove that I came out.
Yeah.
I have people. When they say there is no road there, you want to prove that with your money you can pave way for yourself. That is what most of us are suffering here in Lagos State. As an individual, you know that this area, that is it gets flooded during the rainy season, and you know that there is a reason why this place gets flooded. But because you feel you have money to buy the whole sand in Lagos and sand fill the place, you will buy the land. Now, the money that should be used to develop, to help people to develop, to even to build the house, you have ended up in using them to sand filling the land alone. All right. So I think a time has come that you as an individual and we as individuals should consider the land, consider the future effect of whatever we are doing today. It's very, very important. A lot of people could not. I have somebody in one of the Lekki Garden estates who she said she was sleeping and just waking up in the morning. He said where she plugged her phone, discovered that everywhere the phone was inside water. As we speak now, that phone is condemned because the phone was soaked in that water until they woke up in the morning and met the water in their house. All right. This is place where people pay high money to get apartments. All right. So to me, I feel that individual, don't just be after the pleasure that moment. When it's dry season now, nobody will talk about this water issue again, as if it never occurred in Lagos State. Anywhere you see land, you want to buy. Anywhere you see house, you want to rent. We should consider the future effect of anything we are doing. as individuals.
All right, and I love the fact that the Lagos state government is taking responsibility for some things. The Minister of Environment was saying as that yesterday that they've deployed contractors and they've mobilized men to block outlets to allow for seamless movement of the stormwater.
Okay.
And immediately the flood is evacuated, that they will commence work immediately on what they can do to ensure that there is no repeat of such. And we hope that they put it into practice. We hope that this thing that we have heard, they are going to practicalize it.
You know, in 2011,
Okay.
sorry, in 2011, we had a flood case here in Lagos State. It's on Punch, a flood case that claimed 25 people's life here in Lagos State. And that I want to say that is the occurrence of flood in a very pathetic way in Lagos State is a thing that have been occurring. It happened last year. It was terrible last year. So I want to believe that this thing that has been happening is a thing that the government, these are the major things that government should first of all handle. All right, we've seen money being spent on things that does not affect and benefit the people in any way. So this thing that happen every year, and people lose their, somewhere in Moshi yesterday, a building came down as a result of the flood, as a result of the rain. Right, so I believe the government should really do something rather than just telling us things.
But then the government will not build the house for them. Like, look at that building that came down,
Collapsed.
that collapsed yesterday. Now we can't say it is not a government project, and it is still speaking to us as individuals, because of how cheap things are. Sometimes I go to some places, and a story building, and you can't even jump, you can't walk properly.
If you don't attribute the blame on the government, I will not agree with you, because I believe the government should set a standard for building. In as much as if you go to some certain countries, even if you want to establish a company, there should be you do whatever you are doing according to the standard and their set standard in that country. If Nigeria have a standard for building, and
That's a
your and,
general problem.
so if the government want to handle this, because I believe the government should take the lead and the people follow. All
Exactly.
right. So if as an individual, you cannot. There are certain things you cannot just do if you are not up to doing it here in Nigeria. So the same thing should go to building. All these building collapses and all that can be corrected if the government should set up a measure that if you cannot, your structure, your building cannot come up to this standard, don't build.
Exactly.
So
So,
it
so
will
that
curb
makes
this
it that
situation.
makes that makes it a general problem that it then goes back to the government, because people are just they're buying their land and building with whatever capacity that they have. So because there is no standard, and when the purpose of something is not known, abuse of it you
It's
can't
very certain.
is very certain in that situation. So because there is no standard from the government, so what do you expect? I cannot buy my half plot of land now and be waiting for government to come and give me. I know I have only 99 years to use that land, so I can't be waiting for the government to come and help me to decide what I want to build on it. But at the end, there is a set down standard. And people know that, okay, this is a set down standard. They would want to meet up with it. So this come back to the government. Then I would like to hear your final word on it, on this story, so we can move on to another conversation.
Lagos state government has what it takes to combat this, in as much as it might not be fully eradicated, but at least it can be taken care of. Let there be drainage system to take care of this thing. Just imagine the innocent soul that went down yesterday just because of flooding. All right, so I believe this thing. If we have let the environmental sector, now, they have a lot of work to do. But if they make provision for refuse dump, and they are effective on their own side, then okay. Now recently in Ibejuleki, I noticed that there's some people recruited to ensure that people don't drop refuse on the road, the middle of the road, and they station people to bus stop by bus stop, that when they see you, whether even if it is in the night, they arrest the people. And
There should be consequence.
now because of that, those that were arrested, once they regain their freedom, they tell others. So we notice that thing has dropped. Right? If the government start taking up measures, and they are playing their own part, these things will be taken care of. So the government should rise up and ensure that there is no repeat of this thing, just as they have promised.
All right. On this segment, this is all that we can take. But as soon as we get back from this break, we'll dive into another conversation. Please stay with us.